following is my own true story from my personal experience. They do not speak on behalf of the United States Marine Corps or any other U.S. Marine. This is my own story. If your experience is different, I cannot speak on that.
Warning, this video will be pretty graphically descriptive. While I'll be using these cute little hamsters to tell the story, I just want to give a heads up that if you have a weak stomach to probably set that sandwich down. And if you missed any of the previous Marine Corps Chronicles episodes, luckily I have a playlist for your convenience. And with that being said, I did get permission to tell the story. It will all make more sense once I actually get into the story itself, but first I need to set the scene. A lot of people join the military because they want a change in their life, and fair enough. However, if you want to join the military, and especially the Marines, because you have some sort of substance abuse addiction you want to resolve, and you think that boot camp will be some sort of magic cure because of the discipline it instills alongside its environment, I'm not saying it's absolutely not going to work, but I will say that it's probably not going to work. Yes, in boot camp you get discipline, fun workouts, and absolutely no drugs of any kind or even electronics. However, once you get out of boot camp, which is hopefully going to be the majority of your military career, you once again have access to all the other stuff you've been trying to avoid. Sure, some things are still illegal, but at the same time, if you have unresolved dependencies, then you probably don't care if doing it is legal or not if you are going to do it. And that is the story of this Marine I became friends with back in good old 29 Palms, and I'll just call this Marine Smith. Alcohol and the Marines are like two fried eggs in a basket, and at times there is practically nothing for you to do socially other than gather around and drink. Many Marines, including myself, enlisted fresh out of high school, and most of us did not have a car. So on 29 Palms, which is in a desert, there is especially nothing for us to do. At this time, I was a squad leader, and Smith was one of the Marines in my squad. Smith had a serious alcohol problem. Before enlisting, he told me he would be buying the largest bottle of the cheapest liquor he could find, and he'd be buying like bottles and bottles every week in different liquor stores so that the employees didn't think he had a problem. There were times Smith told himself that he would quit right after a night of binge drinking and then proceed to dump out all his alcohol during that time, only to be right back at the liquor store the next morning. And so he told me that he finally decided to enlist in the Marines to hopefully get the discipline to battle his cravings. However, after he got to 29 Palms, he started drinking again. On this particular day, it was the weekend and a very quiet early Saturday afternoon. Not much was going on. I was laying on my rack watching YouTube videos, and everyone else that wanted to leave base for the weekend already did on Friday. I suddenly get a call from Smith, and this dude is out of breath, alone in his room, and he's telling me that he needs me over to his barracks right now. So I get dressed, and as I'm making my way over, I call his roommate to check up on him to make sure dude isn't gonna keel over and die as I'm jogging over. I get to Smith's room, and his roommate shows up around the same time I do. I immediately notice that all the curtains are pulled tightly shut, and inside the room all the lights are off. It looks like there's no one there. I proceed to then knock on the door, and then I hear Smith opening the door, and he cracks it a quarter of the way open, and I am immediately assaulted with a smell that I can only describe as liquid rotting flesh straight to my face. I was not ready. I spun around, and I could already feel myself about to throw up, and thankfully his room was on the first floor, so if I had to, I didn't have to like lean over the second floor balcony and rain on some kids down below or whatever the fuck, alright? Anyways, as I'm dry heaving and a little dazed, the roommate is also backed all the way up and is also trying not to throw up. Stumbling back to my feet, I try looking into Smith's room to see what the hell was causing that smell, but I can't really see because, I mean, all the lights are off. And Smith explains to me what happened. He was feeling nauseous all morning, and right before he called me, he started to get really nauseous before he was just hit with the urge to vomit. And since he couldn't hold it in, he threw up all over his room while trying to get to the toilet. I tell Smith and his roommate, once I make sure Smith wouldn't pass out before he got there, to go to medical while I also updated the chain of command to what was going on. And as they both set off to get checked up on, I enter Smith's room to see how exactly fucked up his room got. I flick on the lights, and it looks like I'm on a horror movie set. Dude's room looked like the evil upside down version of a barracks room. The vomit in the room was nothing like I had ever seen before. And while I'm not going around like examining people's stomach contents in my day-to-day life, I have never seen vomit like this. It was black and almost grainy. Like if you ever made an espresso shot, the texture of the leftover grounds, but way darker and mushy. The vomit started and clumped up around his bed where he was lying, and it looked like dude was trying to like throw up in a pillowcase and he missed and threw up all over his blanket instead, and then he dragged that same blanket to the bathroom where he continued to throw up. And in the process, there was vomit everywhere. It was all over the floors, it splashed into parts of the wall. The vomit blanket he dragged made everything so much worse because it became like a reverse vomit mop because it was saturated with the thing. In all fairness, I could tell the dude was trying to clean it up using some spare linens and towels, but it honestly just smeared everything around and didn't really make a difference. And the entire time I'm looking at the room, I'm holding a shirt over my face and trying not to throw up myself. And I know someone's going to go, oh, it's just a smell. What's the big deal? Look, if you don't think there's smells out there in this world that will put you on your ass and humble you, you're either really young and haven't had the opportunity to, find out, or you haven't been around places with those smells. Rotting flesh, which is what this vomit smelled like, is one of the worst smelling things you can inhale. Just saying. And specifically, it smelled like rotting flesh mixed with stomach acid and a hint of blood. It was absolutely repulsive. And here's the thing, right? I know all of this was related to Smith's drinking. Well, one, I've never seen anyone barf up black bile before, so I don't think this was just a case of an upset stomach. But two, it was because I fucked up. This is where I get serious and personal. I am taking responsibility. Smith had told me about his struggles with alcohol abuse before. Yes, I was his squad leader, but also on a personal level. The backstory you heard in the intro was due to the conversations we had previously. However, when Smith told me about these issues he had with alcohol a few months before the day of this story is occurring, I pointed him to some rehabilitation and mental health services on base for substance abuse. What I should have done was walk him myself to those services and make sure that he got the help he needed instead of just telling him about these services. I fucked up. So as I'm looking at Smith's room, I have a personal responsibility to clean it up. And yes, there is also the other factor that as a squad leader, I was not about to pull rank or billet to have someone else clean the vomit room on a nice and sunny Saturday afternoon. That would be what people would call a dick move. I slip a piece of paper between the lock of the door so I can get back into his room, as I didn't have his room card, and to go back to my place and grab a bunch of cleaning supplies. I now have cloth tied around my face, a ripped open garbage bag turned into a makeshift hazmat suit, latex gloves on, and I'm looking like a Fallout character as I get the cleaning. The problem wasn't just removing the physical sight of the vomit. The problem was the smell which clung onto every single corner and inch of the room. At one point when I started cleaning, I had the door wide open to air out the room, and I had a pair of Marines walk by. I could hear them gag and go, what the fuck is that smell? And so afterwards, I decided to just shut the door and crack it open a little bit so I get some air in, but also people aren't just staring at the vomit. I threw away the demonic vomit saturated blanket before spending the next hour scrubbing down the tile floor. And also, the funny part was this entire time, Smith's phone was on and playing a stream. At first I thought it was like a YouTube video or something and decided to just let it play out until the end, right? And then it'll turn off by itself and then whatever. Since Smith was on his bed and about to throw up, he was more than likely looking at his phone before he did so. And when he did have to throw up, his phone fell between the wall and the mattress, and the mattress itself got drenched in vomit. So if I wanted to grab his phone, I would have to move and dig behind the vomit mattress. So as I'm cleaning, and I don't have earbuds in or anything, I'm listening to a woman play video games, which I'm pretty sure was Pokemon, by the way. I can't confirm it, alright? And no hate to whoever was actually streaming, but I bring all this up because it felt like it was such a surreal moment to listen to someone stream having fun playing video games while I'm wearing a fucking hazmat suit trash bag, dry heaving into the cloth covering my face and cleaning the rotten flesh bile from the vomit room. So 20 minutes go by as I'm cleaning and I'm like, damn, it's a long ass video. And then 30 minutes go by and now I'm like, is this a streamer? First of all, she sounds familiar, but second of all, how's this video still going? And by the time he hit the hour mark, I started to lose my mind. I started to get a little squirrely, I ain't gonna lie. About 3 hours in, and I started running out of paper towels long before that, but at this point, I was low on pretty much all my cleaning supplies, and I needed to walk to the PX because I didn't have a car. It was a 15-20 minute walk or so to the PX. However, I reeked of vomit at this point. I don't think I actually got any on my body, but the smell just permeated all over my hair, my skin, my clothes, and all that. And so as I'm walking to and inside the PX, people aren't saying anything, but they are most definitely giving me strange looks. And I'm pretty sure if I was a cartoon character, I would have the green aura stinky lines come out of me. I come back to the room with cleaning supplies, wipe down some other stuff, and now I need to get rid of this tarnished mattress. I slip 2 garbage bags over it, one on each end, so as I'm dragging it out, the vomit on top is hidden and more contained, and proceed to drag this thing to a dumpster right next to the barracks. And yes, I know this is government property, but I assure you, if there's one thing the Marine Corps does not care about, it is their mattresses. I'm pretty sure those things haven't been cleaned since the Vietnam War. And not to mention, I don't think anyone wants to use the vomit mattress anyways in the future. I go to the duty desk and tell the dude there, hey, I need a replacement for the mattress because, well, there's vomit all over it. The other guys on duty, one of the other guys just takes me up to this room on the third deck. On the third floor of our barracks complex, there is one room that is literally just filled with spare mattresses. They probably all have spiders and moths inside them, but oh well. Replacement for old mattresses isn't exactly a fiscal priority for the Marines. So I pick and choose a decent looking mattress out of the room and rest it on the walkway as the duty guy that took me there leaves. Now, this room was a full building away from where Smith's room was, not to mention on the third floor. As I'm staring at this mattress, I get a bright idea. Instead of dragging this thing down 2 flights of stairs and around a building, I can just throw this bitch right off the balcony and into a patch of gravel right down below and proceed to carry it to his room. But the last thing I wanted was to throw this mattress on top of some passerby and catch a manslaughter charge. I'm glancing around and I don't really see anybody nearby, so I'm like, fuck it. And I launched that shit off the third deck and it falls pretty cleanly onto a patch of gravel, right? It was a good toss. And I'm not really that worried. I mean, if someone sees me, like, I didn't kill anybody, so like, what can they really do, you know? But at the same time, I'm half expecting someone to scream, what the fuck are you doing? But alas, I didn't hear anyone. Cool. I scuttle downstairs, grab the mattress, and then I see a set of eyes staring at me from the second deck, which I couldn't see when I was standing on the third deck, and we just made eye contact. He didn't say shit. I didn't say shit. I think he was just mad confused on what I was doing, which, I mean, that's fair. Now, after replacing the mattress in Smith's room, I spent the next hour still trying to get rid of the awful smell that just was still permeated everywhere. And finally, about a total of 5 hours of cleaning, I was pretty satisfied. The room still had a faint smell of vomit, but if anything, it smelled like bleach because I was scrubbing everything down with it. And I took a very long shower after that, I assure you. That sounds kind of sus, but I mean like to clean myself. In the few days after this incident, Smith thankfully started a recovery program. I asked Smith why he didn't seek treatment before all this, especially after our first conversation about his alcohol abuse. We talked for a while, but the gist is that he felt like my earlier suggestions were performative, like I was a brochure. Of course, Smith knew about the various programs and rehabs available on base. The issue was that Smith felt as if people were telling him to seek help without actually caring whether or not he got help. And so he thought, well, why bother going to rehab or any other recovery program when it's going to be a bunch of people fake pretending to help and just going through the motions but don't actually care. It was when I actually cleaned his room that he felt as if, okay, maybe there are people out there who aren't like immediately like family or something who do care about my struggles with addiction, and so maybe rehab is genuinely worth a try. And that is why I'm making this video. No, me cleaning this room does not make me exceptional, nor am I looking for any sort of praise. I let this ring down earlier and it is my responsibility to fix it. Not to mention, just as a person, if I was in his shoes, I would hope that the other person would do the same. The reason why I am making this video is because I do not want others to make the same mistake I did. Actions speak louder than words. It's an old saying for a reason. The reality is that everyone has their own struggles. Some turn to things like alcohol as a coping mechanism, but that doesn't make them a bad person. Okay, let me make this clear. That does not mean I condone bad behavior while on substances or trying to get substances. I notice that people on the internet like to draw crazy ass conclusions, so please let's not do that, alright? What I mean by that is that there are many people whom I've known who struggle with addiction. And you know what? I don't always understand. I don't always get why people do the things they do. But what I have learned is that it is best not to judge because you don't know what that person is going through. The best you can do is have some empathy and show it through both words and action. Smith is still sober to this day. If you are watching this and struggling with some kind of addiction, I won't say understand what you're going through. I don't. I have not lived in your shoes. But that does not mean that myself or others don't care. Thank you for watching, and please like and subscribe if you want to, of course. And also check out the other episodes if you missed them. The playlist is on my channel. Have a wonderful day, and